Yeah, but Joe, let me take you to France. Diamonds hot, get it ice out again. Been through rocky, the climber and niggas on top of these niggas not with it. Bitch, I love money all over the digits. Niggas look up to me cause I go get it. Little bitch, she obsessed with me and she with it.
Okay, I'm back to another video. So today we are back with another leftist reacts to Tom MacDonald. I do like doing this series. Tom MacDonald is a very interesting person to listen to, and my reactions and his songs spark a lot of discussion. I'm sure that is the intended purpose of this music as well from Tom MacDonald. So it's always great if you agree or you disagree with anything I say in this video. Let me know. I'm sure there'll be lots of people that disagree as well, because as always, I'm coming at this from a leftist perspective, and that means that naturally there's going to be some stuff I disagree with Tom MacDonald on. But then again, also I think he makes lots of good points, and lots of points that also kind of fit with left-wing ideology, kind of. Like, it's hard to place him on a political spectrum. He's a bit all over the place, and I still haven't really figured out what his personal views are, because I feel like some of the stuff he says is just for effect. But yeah, this will be interesting to get into. I like to do these because it provides a bit of a alternative, because I feel like a lot of the reaction channels do kind of just sit there and go, yep, he's right about everything, because like his fans will come for you if you disagree with him in any way. So yeah, I like to provide a different perspective and spark some discussion in the comment section. So we're going to get into this. Tom MacDonald, Brainwashed, his brand new track. Let's go.
The country fell asleep, but they scream woke. We're distracted by vaccines and TV shows, politics, celebrity gossip, popular neat quotes, black lives.
I wonder if Tom MacDonald is anti-vaccine. Ooh. I would put money on him being anti-vaccine, but I'm still not sure about, like I said, I still can't quite figure out his personal beliefs, but I reckon he's probably anti-vax. Anyway, I'm going to be pausing a lot because Tom MacDonald's songs are kind of packed full of a lot of talking points. Yeah, let's go.
Gossip, popular, neat quotes, black lives, white lives, which lives mean most? We only dedicate one day to remember our fallen soldiers.
I still, again, can't ever tell if he's just saying a lyric for effect and he doesn't actually mean it. Like, he might just be saying it because it kind of works as a line and sounds good. But if he was meaning that seriously, Black Lives Matter was never about which lives mean most. It was never about black lives meaning more than white lives. It was just about acknowledging the fact that some black people were treated like their life mattered less, and it was just kind of a support for that injustice. And I feel like a lot of people, kind of like the white fragility came out in lots of people, where they were like, oh, you're being anti-white by being pro-black, and it's like, no. But I don't think he was actually necessarily making a serious point with that. He might have just been saying it for effect. I feel like that's 90% of what Tom MacDonald does.
Mean most. We only dedicate one day to remember our fallen soldiers, the men and women who died young. But if you come out the closet as Caitlyn Jenner, you're a hero and you get a whole Pride Month. The most dangerous pandemic's propaganda from these clowns. Only, like,
good point followed by a weird comparison is how I'd say. Like, yeah, the idea, like, don't remember soldiers that much, and I mean, in general, how soldiers are treated, like veterans are fucked over. Like, from the stories I've heard as well, America seems like a lot worse as well in terms of how they treat their veterans and how they kind of just discard them to the side. It's very fucked up. Like, you send a little 18-year-old kid to go and fight in Vietnam or Iraq, and then you say, yeah, we'll take care of you when you come back, and then they come back and you kind of just leave them on the street. Like, some of the treatment is fucked, and it happens in the UK, but from what I've heard, it's like even worse in America. And then the comparison, I feel like I've heard this comparison quite a lot from a lot of people, and it's the idea that you're not brave for coming out because the real bravery is being a soldier and fighting in a war. It's like, they're just two very different kinds of bravery. Like, obviously the kind of peak of bravery, the most brave you could ever get, is probably fighting in a war. I don't think anyone's trying to say coming out as gay is like more brave than risking your life in a war. But just because that's brave, it doesn't mean that coming out is now not brave at all. Like, it's still a pretty brave thing to do. Coming out as gay, or coming out as trans, even more socially kind of unacceptable and taboo. Yeah, like, it's still a pretty serious thing to do, coming out, but it's obviously not on the scale of fighting a war. I find that comparison weird, but I've heard it quite a lot. But they're both brave things to do in very different ways and on very different ends of the scale.
There's pandemics, propaganda from these, like, big pharma doesn't cure you, dog, cause every patient that gets cured is a customer lost, and big oil runs the world. The only wars that get fought are with the countries who have natural resources they want. Heard him claiming if a white man...
Okay, Tom, okay. I like that. Was he Was he going on a little talk about anti-privatised healthcare? Okay, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that.
Cure you, dog, cause every patient that gets cured is a customer lost. And big oil runs
Love
the
that.
world. The only wars that get fought are with the countries who have natural resources they want. Heard him claiming if a white...
This is where I feel like Tom MacDonald comes into this area, and this is where I tend to agree with him, is the kind of like anti-establishment, corruption, almost like populist kind of view, where he goes, yeah, big pharma's fucked up, and going to war in Iraq for oil is fucked up, like all of these things. This is where I kind of like him, and he comes into like, I'm pretty sure he's got an anarchist tattoo, right? He comes into his more anarchist side of his views, and this is where I tend to agree with him more. Like, yeah, he makes some good points there.
Fought are with the countries who have natural resources they want. Heard him claiming if a white man braids his hair and likes rap, he's appropriating culture. But if a white man acts too white, he's white trash. He's a racist, he's a bigot, he's a monster. Let's just have the conversation. Not every liberal is dumb.
Was Tom MacDonald implying that white culture and acting too white was being racist then? Let me listen. Let me hear that back.
White man acts too white, he's white trash. He's a racist, he's a bigot, he's a monster.
A white man acts too white, he's a racist, he's a bigot, he's a monster. So acting white is being a bigot and being a racist. Like, are you like making a point about, I don't know what he's saying there. Like the whole cultural appropriation thing, he's got braids, like, bro, have your fucking hair how you want. It's like some 14-year-olds on Twitter telling you can't do that. But then, yeah, if you act too white, you're called a racist. It's like, no, you're called a racist if you're racist. And if you think acting white, or acting more white, or white culture is about racism and bigotry, that might say something about you. I don't know.
His hair and likes rap, he's appropriating culture. But if a white man acts too white, he's white trash. He's a racist, he's a bigot, he's a monster. Let's just have the conversation.
I'm not sure what he's saying.
Not every liberal is dumb, not all Republicans are racist. The government wants everybody fighting with their neighbors because they know that if we get along, we'll probably go against them. They can't stop us.
This is where he's exactly right. Like, when he talks about divide as well, I've heard him talk about it a couple of times, I think, where it's like the reasons for why politicians actually like the fact that when the people are divided, and why it's a good thing for the establishment and the system if the population of a country all hate each other, because it means that they don't realise all the fucked up shit that's going on at the top. Like, yeah, he comes into his more anarchist, populist kind of side of him here. And this is a weird thing, the fact that, like, populism and like anti-establishment, anti-system kind of stuff, it traditionally used to be a left-wing thing. Traditionally, like, you go back to, like, I'm not really sure about the history of it in America, but like in general, anti-establishment populism used to be a more left-wing thing. The left-wing used to be anti-corporations, anti-corruption, all of that. And now it's kind of shifted over to the right-wing in like the last 20, 30 years, especially in America, because the Republicans are now the people who are speaking out against corporations and speaking out against corruption and speaking out against the fact, like, social media companies have so much control over our life, etc., etc. And the Democrats, they're like the left wing. The Democrats aren't left wing; they're neoliberal. But like the left, they are left to the Republicans. So the left wing of America and the Democrats are now pro big corporations and pro maintaining the system and all of that shit, which is strange. It's very strange how the anti-establishment populism has shifted over to the right in recent years. I think Tom MacDonald's an example of that, because he is clearly anti-establishment and populist, and I think you go back maybe 40, 50 years, he would be left-wing. And maybe in the UK, even, he'd be left-wing, because, well, I don't know, yeah, it's hard to tell. But when he speaks about this kind of stuff, this is where I agree with him.
They know that if we get along, we'll probably go against them. They can't stop us, 'cause we're ready to fight. 'Cause they've been selling us cigarettes since we was 18. Fake news, fake woke, distract and divide. You're either right or you're left, or you're black or you're white. Big tech don't need a microchip to hack in your life, 'cause the phone inside your pocket is a tracking device. And I don't know what I'm more sick of.
This is where I like him. This is where I like him. He makes some good points. Like, yeah, generally, like, the purpose of the divide is to distract. Like, yeah, the reason that politicians don't like to be bipartisan, or like social media companies create platforms that stir up these kind of divisions and hatred and stuff like that, is because it it's good for them. It's good for big corporations if people are fighting against each other, because otherwise they would be going, oh shit, Facebook are kind of fucked up, we should probably do something about that. But they're too distracted about going against Democrat and Republican or left and right or black and white, all of that stuff.
Inside your pocket is a tracking device. And I don't know what I'm more sick of, rappers or Joe Biden looking like he ate 100 Xanax for dinner. Cause censoring the president and kicking him off Twitter is a bigger threat to freedom than foreign ballistic missiles. You don't trust the police or the government, but you want...
This is the thing, the Trump Twitter thing, like, I agree he shouldn't have been censored on Twitter, but what I never understand is right-wing people saying that he shouldn't have been kicked off Twitter. So if you take the First Amendment of free speech, that's limiting the fact that the government can't interfere with free speech, not that corporations can't interfere with free speech. The fact that Twitter and Facebook and all the other social media companies were basically all one fucking company, like, the fact that they had the ability and the authority to be able to just kick the president off Twitter is a direct product of neoliberal capitalism and a direct product of an economic system which allows corporations to get so big and so powerful. They have more power than the government, more power than the president, more power than the whole country almost. Like, this is a direct product of capitalism. The fact that you allow corporations to form a monopoly or monopsony, like Twitter and Facebook and Google all work together, so I still kind of count that as a monopoly because they all act as one corporation, like there's not really competition there. The fact that this economic system allows that to happen, but then you get all the people who are complaining about Trump being kicked off Twitter then speak out in favour of capitalism. This is what I don't get, and it's why the idea of populism being on the right still, I think, is a bit strange. Like, I think the reason that that's happened is because the Democrats are a bit shit. Like, I think a lot of people who probably would have been left-wing if the Democrats were good have gone over to the Republicans because the Democrats are just hopeless and don't really know what they're doing and are so, like, dead centre that they won't commit to anything either way. Like, yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. But yeah, like, so many people will argue in favour of capitalism and say anything with the government getting involved or any regulation or any power away from corporations or anything like that is communism and we should murder all communists. But then they're pissed about Trump being kicked off Twitter, which is a direct product of the economic system that they argue for. In general, I don't think any corporation should have any kind of power to be able to remove the president off the platform. That's way too much power for an unelected, unaccountable official to have. And you could say they're accountable because of the free market. Bro, the CEO of Twitter is not accountable. People aren't going to stop using Twitter because they've got a fucking monopoly.
Him off Twitter is a bigger threat to freedom than foreign ballistic missiles. You don't trust the police or the government, but you want people giving up their right to own a firearm. Why would you be comfortable if police and the government the only people on the planet with the right to buy a gun? White privilege getting amplified to reinforce...
That's the argument for the Second Amendment and guns being, like, against a tyrannical government. I think, in principle, I do kind of agree with. I'm like, yeah, the people having enough power to be able to resist a tyrannical government is obviously a good thing. But I don't think even if every single person in America was armed, I still don't think that's enough to stop like, if the government wanted to just put down a revolution or put down a protest, they could do it. Like, I don't think everyone being armed in the country, even that is enough to stop a tyrannical government. Like, the US has the biggest military in the world. If they wanted to kill its people, they would do it. They've got fucking tanks, they've got drones, all of that shit. Like, I think back in the day, everyone being armed would have been enough to prevent a tyrannical government. So I kind of get it in principle. But the argument now I don't think applies because I kind of scary, the fact that the whole country being armed probably still wouldn't be enough. A bit worrying. But yeah, if a tyrannical government wanted to kill people, I think they could probably still do it even if people are armed, which is a scary thought, but yeah. But again, like, in principle, I think that's probably the best argument for the Second Amendment, is, like, it's giving the people power, and it's, like, giving the population, the populace, an ability to resist a government, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, again, stuff he's saying, anti-establishment, anti-status quo, anti-populist, he's populist in general, he's got an anarchist tattoo, so, yeah, he's got some good views.
Right the buy gun. White privilege getting amplified to reinforce division. It convinces white people that they're favored by their skin, and black people getting angry because they're told they're treated different. So the conflict is between us and never with the system. Let's just have the conversation. Not every liberal is dumb.
I feel like he makes his points in a bit of a weird way sometimes, but the end point was still good. It's like they want the argument to be between us and not the system. The whole stuff about amplifying white privilege, I still think is like, yeah, weird way to make the point, but the overall point is still correct.
Not all Republicans are racist. The government wants everybody fighting with their neighbors because they know that if we get along, we'll probably go against them. Step 1, train the people only to consume. Step 2, infiltrate adults with the news. Step 3, indoctrinate the children through the schools and the music and the apps on the phones that they use. Step 4, separate the right from the left. Step 5, separate the white from the black. Step 6, separate the rich from the poor. Use religion and equality to separate them more. Step 7, fabricate a problem, made a lie. Step 8, put it on the news every night. Step 9, when people start to fight and divide, take control. This is called situational design. They can't stop us.
Bro, Tom MacDonald, the anarchist. I love it. I love it. Yeah, he's making some good points. Some of them were a bit off, I think. But in general, the whole sentiment of this song, which is like, the people at the top are controlling us. You don't realise you're being fucking brainwashed. You don't realise you're getting pit against each other to make you fight against each other, so they don't realise how fucked up the people at the top are doing. The general sentiment of this song, I think, is pretty spot on.
Step 3, indoctrinate the children through the schools and the music and the apps on the phones that they use.
But then, like, when he talks about indoctrinating children through schools, I'm like, I would like a specific example of this, because I think, yes, there's general indoctrination that happens in like every country's schools about like nationalism and stuff like that, but I don't know whether that would be the point he's making. I imagine he'd be making more of a critical race theory is bad kind of point. Yeah, I would like specifics, and I think you can't really get that without having like an actual conversation with him, because he's making a song obviously, so he can't go into detail. But like in general, that whole little verse there about the steps that people, the government and the people at the top take to control you and create a population of people who kind of just abide in the system and enjoy it and just take it for what it is. Spot on. And the first one about consumerism, yeah, that's the first step.
Step 1, train the people only to consume. Step 2, infiltrate adults with the news. Step 3, indoctrinate the children through the schools and the music and the apps on the phones that they use. Step 4, separate the right from the left. Step 5, separate the white from the black. Step 6, separate the rich from the poor. Use religion and equality to separate them more. Step 7, fabricate.
But then again, when he talks about separate the white from the black, it's like, I don't know if that's necessarily happening now. I think it's hard to say. I think the idea that there's like race tensions and there's a divide between the races now, I don't think is a product of the people at the top on purposely doing it. I think it's a product of the fact that actually racism exists. But if you go back to why racism exists in the first place, like you go back to the root cause of racism, which is slavery. Why did racism start in America specifically, and why is it still such a big problem in America? And it's because all the slave owners needed an excuse for why it was okay to own slaves. Like, the people in America at the time probably weren't anti-black, or they weren't like inherently racist. Those people wouldn't have instantly thought that black person is worth less than me. But the slave owners and the government and the people at the top needed an excuse. They needed a reason why they could get away with slavery, and they needed the people to realise, to not realise how fucked up it was. That's how racism was created. It was an excuse for slavery. It was, oh shit, we need some people that we can come and get some free labour. Shit, the people of our country probably won't like the fact we'll do that. Let's tell them that they're worth less than us. Like, that was the reason racism started. So separate the white from the black, maybe not applicable to now, but in terms of the root causes of racism, that's exactly what it was. It was a manufactured thing.
Step 6, separate the rich from the poor. Use religion and equality to separate them more. Step 7, fabricate a problem, made a lie. Step 8, put it on the news every night. Step 9, when people start to fight and divide, take control. This is called situational design.
Yeah, situational design.
Stop us.
overall, I think the general sentiment of that song, I agreed with. He was talking less kind of like politically, or specifically politically about like right wing and left wing, more just about like people versus the system. And I think when Tom MacDonald speaks about people versus the system, that's when I agree with most of what he says. I'm surprised. I agreed with most of what he said in that song. Let me know what you thought. If I said anything in this video you either disagreed with or agreed with, let me know in the comments. Have a nice discussion in the comments once again. And yeah, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like. Make sure, if you want to see more of these, you subscribe and turn notifications on so you don't miss my next upload. And I will see you guys in the next one.